Now, the latest shooting spree in Fayetteville comes just 2 years after another violent rampage there. That's when Sergeant Kenneth French opened fire in a restaurant, killing 4 people and injuring 8 others. It was an August night in 1993 when Fayetteville was left in shock. This 911 call alerted police of a bloody mass shooting at Luigi's restaurant.
911, may I help you? Yes, ma'am. This is Luigi's restaurant on Pearson Church Road. We've got somebody outside blowing off a shotgun. A shotgun? Yes, ma'am. He just shot a gun through the window. Is anybody hurt? I don't think so. Your name, please? I'm Tracy. Tracy? Yes. All right, Tracy, I want you to stay inside. Okay, yeah, we're inside. Everybody's on the floor. We're full of customers, too.
Sergeant Kenneth French, armed with 2 shotguns and a rifle, opened fire. He killed 4 and injured 8 others before 2 off-duty policemen would stop his rampage by shooting him twice. Now, French survived that shooting, but he was found guilty on 4 counts of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison.
Hey,
Good morning.
Ken, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I want you to know that we're recording you. Is that okay?
That's fine. That is fine.
Awesome. So you're sitting, from me, ironically, about an hour and a half from me, maybe 2 hours, physically right now. Something happened with you on August 6, 1993, and we're going to talk about that. But back up, where did you grow up at? Where did you go to school?
I grew up in a little town in southern Michigan called Bronson, Michigan. Went to that's a fairly good school. I had some good teachers. I didn't try as hard as maybe I should have, but went to school in Bronson, Michigan. Pretty small class of, we had about 97 or 98 people graduated in my high school class, so pretty small school, pretty small town. One stoplight, 7 bars, 2 grocery stores, not much to it.
So you grew up in Bronson, Michigan. Have you ever heard of Frankenmuth, Michigan?
Yeah, it's Frankenmuth is about maybe an hour and a half north.
Yes, we love that little town. My wife and I love that town.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool place.
Yeah. So you must have then joined the military and went to Fort Bragg in North Carolina. Is that correct?
Well, yes. I signed up into the late entry program a year before I graduated, and I went to basic training 3 days after graduation, June 1st of '89.
Where was basic training at?
Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I did my basic and my AIT in Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
Okay.
I trained as a heavy wheel vehicle mechanic. My next assignment was jump school at Fort Benning, and then I got stationed in Camp Casey, Korea, and I stayed in Korea for a couple years before I eventually made it here to Fort Bragg.
And how old were you, or what year did you get to Fort Bragg?
I was 20 years old. I signed in Fort Bragg January 11th
Of what?
1991.
So 1991, January of 91, you're 20.
Yeah.
And
I turned
you show up
21,
to Fort
later,
Bragg.
Yeah.
And you were at Fort Bragg for a couple years, stationed there at Fort Bragg.
I was a mechanic. I was assigned initially. I had orders going to Fort Hood, Texas, while I was in Korea, and I didn't want to go to Texas. I wanted to go to Fort Bragg, either Fort Bragg or Fort Campbell, so I could either jump out of airplanes or rappel out of helicopters.
Okay.
Well, I wrote to branch management and got my orders changed to Fort Bragg. All right. When I got to Fort Bragg, I was assigned to a non-airborne unit, and I was like, "You've got to be kidding me!" All right. So I drove around in a friend of mine's truck. My best friend from Michigan was already stationed there at Fort Bragg. I drove around in his truck, and I saw a unit that was right next to the one that they had me assigned to, and so I pulled in the battalion, and I went in and I talked to the major there, the XO in the battalion, and he got me switched over to the airborne unit at 1st and 39th Field Artillery, and I was responsible for 26 HEMTs. They're the long transfer cargo trucks, big trucks, And I was, at that time, they hadn't had a mechanic for those trucks in almost a year, and I was the only mechanic they had for them, so I stayed pretty busy for a while.
Did you ever have, were you active combat? You were never wearing any combat, were you?
No, sir. No,
Okay.
sir, never.
No combat.
No, sir.
Okay. So, have you ever thought about killing someone prior to 1993?
Other than, and I'm being serious, not being flippant, other than my dad, no.
So you thought about killing your dad. Was he not a very good dad or what?
No, he was not a good individual all the way around.
Okay. So you had a rough childhood then?
Yeah, comparatively, yes. Pretty bad. Dad was what you'd call a dry alcoholic in his attitude, his meanness. He was like a mean drunk that didn't drink.
Okay.
Very domineering. His word was law in the house. We watched what he wanted to watch on TV. We did what he wanted to do. And having, if you voice opinion against it, you had hell to pay.
Did you get beaten by him, like physically beaten?
That's the verbal and physical abuse was, that was pretty much a constant thing with him.
So you thought about killing him, what, as a teenager?
There was one time that I seriously, there's many times that I thought about it. There's one time that I came pretty close to it. I was sitting on, we had a salvage yard, and I was sitting in the forklift, and I had the two front forks underneath the bumper of a car, and had the front bumper of a car raised up in the air so he could go underneath the oxygen acetylene torch and cut the motor mounts out. And all I had to do was just flip the lever back, and that would have been the end of it. And as I was thinking about it, I don't know, it scared the hell out of me because he stood up and he looked at me and he pointed the torch at me and said, "If you ever try it, you better fucking finish it."
Oh.
And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What?" He's like, "If you ever try it, you better fucking finish it." And he went back. He didn't get underneath the car again. He reached underneath there
almost like he knew.
He sensed it. Yeah, he sensed it,
Wow.
It was weird. It was pretty weird, yeah.
So you didn't do that, and you went into the military, and you kind of made something of yourself into the military. What happened on August 6th, 1993? Had you been planning this for a while? Have you thought about it for a while, or did you just snap on August 6th and say, "This is what I'm doing"? Just kind of walk us up to that date. Did you think about this before the event or not?
Okay. I definitely didn't plan it. Had no thoughts about doing anything. While I was at Fort Bragg, I was meeting and exceeding every goal that I set for myself. I'd made my E5, my sergeant stripes in 3.5 years. I was getting ready to go to Jumpmaster School. I was getting ready to go to the E6 Forward in December. Jumpmaster School was scheduled for September. I had a tentative school date for another school the following spring. I was getting ready to get married. I had a fiance, her 2 kids, new truck, getting ready to buy a new house. So a little bit of pressure. Most all of it's self-imposed, but responsibilities and pressures that I had on myself. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was an alcoholic. I am an alcoholic. And August 5th, I went out, but let me back up. My fiance wanted to go to a country music festival up in Maryland, so I bought tickets for her and her girlfriend to go up there for a week-long country music festival. And my fiance's 2 children were down at her sister's place, and her sister was watching them for the week. Well, August 5th, I didn't have anything to do at the house, so where I was staying with my fiance, so I went out with some friends of mine drinking and come in about, I don't know, probably about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was supposed to have gotten up the morning of August 6th, which was a Friday, and our unit had like a fun day scheduled. We had 2 buses, and we were going to load up our company and go to the beach. And we had a couple kegs, one for each keg of beer for each bus, and we was going to go to the beach and spend the day down at the beach.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't make it. I was passed out in my room, and by the time I woke up, they were long gone. And so I got up and went. I'm trying to remember the first place I drove to buddy of mine's house to check on. He was out in the field. I drove to his apartment to check on his wife, make sure their kids were all right. I stopped at a video rental store and rented some VCR tapes.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went home, took care of some little odds and ends around the house, and just sat around drinking. I had a fifth of wild turkey and a 12-pack of Coors, and sat around drinking pretty much all day and watching movies.
Okay. Then what happened?
I don't really know what. My last conscious memory of that night was getting up and changing movies into VCR and sitting back down on the couch and picking up the remote. And by that time, I'd already drank, I guess, the whole fifth, or at least most all of the fifth, and the beer that was there at the house.
Mm-hmm. So you were intoxicated.
Yes.
So what happens? What happens next?
Well, my next conscious memory is waking up in the hospital with a nurse on my right-hand side and two officers on the left-hand side, and I'm handcuffed to the hospital bed, not knowing how I got there. All right, and I asked the nurse if she could get them. When I tried to speak, I realized my jaw was broken.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked the nurse, I said, can you get them to take the handcuffs off? They're cutting into my wrist. And finally, she got them to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at her and I said, I need someone to go to my fiance's house and take back the movies that I rented and feed her kitten. And she looked at me like I was crazy, and she said, what? And I know my jaw was broken. I wasn't really enunciating. My mouth was pretty messed up.
Mm-hmm.
So I repeated myself as clearly as I could. And she said, don't you realize what you've done? And I was like, no, what happened? And she said, hold on a minute. She went and turned the TV on in the ICU room, and she said, just wait a minute, just watch. And 5 minutes later, the news broadcast, special news bulletin come on talking about Fort Bragg Army Sergeant Kenneth French went into Luigi's restaurant in Fayetteville and killed 4 people and shot numerous others. And I'm laying there in that bed going, no, this is not happening. This is not real. I'm having a nightmare. I'm going to wake up back on that couch. Well,
so it happened.
Years later, and I still haven't woken up. Yeah.
It happened, and why? Okay, so you don't remember any of this, you say. So why Luigi's restaurant? Have you ever been there before?
No, never been there. I didn't know anyone there.
Never been there.
I know I drove past it because it was the road that it was on, but I hadn't even recalled
never been in there.
Going there, or no.
So the victims that day, I'm showing pictures in the video too. Pictures, the owners of the restaurant, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. What do you remember their names?
Pete and Ethel Paris.
Pete and Ethel Paris. They were older. They were like 73 and 65. They were the owners. That's ironic that they died that day. The owners of the restaurant.
Yeah.
There's another man. I'm showing this one. James Kidd. He's 46-year-old.
James Kidd. Yes, he was.
And he had
a couple. Carolina on business and visit.
He had a couple kids of his own, I believe. Right? He had a couple children.
Yeah.
And then there's a younger guy. Remember what's the younger guy's name? Wesley Cover?
Wesley Cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wesley Cover.
And he was like 26. Let's see. He was 26 years old.
He was also in the Army. Him and his fiance and his best friend were there eating. Yeah.
So you don't remember what happened, but I'm sure you've been told. What happened? Yeah. You walked in with 2 shotguns and a .22 rifle, and from what you've been told, what happened?
They said that there was a lady sitting out in a pickup truck in the parking lot. Her husband was in picking up an order of food, and she said that I drove in. She seen me get out of my truck and reach in the back and get guns out and lay them on the pavement on the parking lot.
Okay.
And that time she said she started getting worried, and she was, easing down in the seat, getting out of line of sight.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
She was still watching me, and she said that I picked up one of the guns and I fired a round in one out into traffic on McPherson Church Road. I fired at some cars. I think they're in the parking lot. Yes, there was. I know at least one, maybe two cars in the parking lot I shot at. And she said that I walked beside the building and she could still hear me shoot, but I was out of her line of sight. And the people inside the restaurant. I'll call back here in just a second. Yeah. But people inside of the restaurant said that I was shooting through the side windows as I was walking down the side of the building.
Let's do that. Call me right back.
All right.
Thank you, sir. I'll let this record. We're talking to Kenneth French, mass murderer, who shot 11 people, killed 4 at a restaurant. And he's going to tell you that he was shot in the jaw in multiple places by the police responding officers. He survived, went to trial, and was convicted, and he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. Now, so a lot of people say they don't remember what they've done, and that's something that, I don't know if I believe them or not. I really don't. I don't know if that's true. I don't know. But that's a good way to, that's a good way to distance yourself from the crime. And some of the serial killers and some people will say, I don't remember any of this. Could he have been so drunk that he blacked out? I mean, it's possible. I don't know. But here we are. We're going to get the story.
This is a Global Tel Link prepaid call from
Ken French. All
right, Ken. So you're shooting through the building, and now you're going to walk into the building. Do you walk through the front door, back door? How do you get in?
I went along the side of it and around to the back, and the people in the back of the restaurant. One of the guys that was in the restaurant proper, one of the patrons, had come. He was going to run out the back door, and he said that he had pushed through they had some swinging waiter doors, and he pushed through the waiter doors and was yelling to the people in the restaurant. He's coming through back up. Said that he came through the waiter's doors, and that's about the time that I kicked the back door in, and he said he slid on his feet, dropped to his rear, and pushed himself back out into the front of the restaurant, talking about he's coming in the back, and the people that were in the back of the restaurant, the wait staff and cook staff, I shot one man that was there in the shoulder, the cook. His name was Willie McCormick. I shot him in the shoulder, and other people were hiding in the coolers, and then I guess they had some type of room back there or something that they hid in. They said when I walked into the restaurant proper through the wait doors, that the owner, Mr. Parrish, stood up, and he said, I'm trying to remember now clearly, but he said something to the effect of, don't hurt anybody, take whatever you want. And they said that as soon as he started speaking, as soon as he said something drew my attention, that I shot him. And I'm trying to remember from years ago.
Did you shoot the wife then right away, the owner's wife?
I think that was later. I think her and her daughter, the three of them were sitting in a booth, and I think her and her daughter got down on the floor first, and there was other people yelling and screaming or something, and basically anybody that moved or made a sound, anything that drew my attention, I shot at them or tried to kill them. And
anybody that moved or made noise, you went after them?
Yes, sir.
And I think you shot 11 people. You killed 4 and injured 7, correct?
8.
Were you using one weapon the whole time, or did you move from weapon to weapon?
No, it was a pump shotgun that I'd gotten when I was 14 years old, and
that was your main weapon.
Yes, sir. That's the only one that I used. There was another 12-gauge shotgun that stayed out in the parking lot.
Okay.
A 22 rifle that stayed out there.
Oh, so you just came in with the shotgun. Now, did you have to reload it all, or was it?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
How many times did you reload?
I think they said I fired 27 rounds.
How many is it whole?
Now that 5, the 1 in the chamber and 4 in the magazine.
So you'd have reloaded 5 times.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you just kept bang, 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 and then did the police respond and did they shoot you?
Yes. Well, yeah. They said that I was just walking around in the restaurant, and anybody that moved or made a sound, and the one man that got killed, James Kidd, he was there with his son who was stationed at Fort Bragg, and he had his son underneath of him, underneath of a table in a booth.
Okay.
And his son said that the last thing his dad told him was, "I love you." And he heard a shot, and his dad jerked forward. He heard another shot, and his dad jerked forward again, and then he heard the breath leave out of his out of his mouth, and that was the last. There was a couple other guys that were behind a table that had turned over, or that they had turned over, and I told one of them to run, and as soon as he started to run, I shot him, and I didn't know it, but the people inside, they said that they seen the police showing up out there, and one of the officers fired through a window at me, and they said that the officer said I immediately went to the ground, but he didn't know if he had hit me or not. There was a officer that eventually came in. He was a lieutenant from the Fayetteville Police Department. His name is Simmons, and he took it upon himself. They could still hear shooting and stuff going on inside. He took it upon himself to come in there by himself, and he said that when he got in there, I was sitting up against the wall with my legs out in front of me and the shotgun laying across my legs and my hands still. And he said he told me to put the weapon down, and he said that I started to move, so he shot me. He said the first shot was a headshot, and they're trained to double tap to fire, so he instinctively fired a second round. He said the suspect was still moving, so he fired, double tapped again, and said he may have fired 1 or 2 more shots. He didn't really remember. He wasn't clear. There's a lot of stuff probably going on in his mind.
Shot you? Did he shoot you in the jaw? And where else were you shot?
First shot was a headshot. That was in the jaw. I got hit 4 times in the legs, and one of those went through one leg and into the back of the other leg, and the other one went through one leg and into my right arm. But,
so
he shot me 5.
Shot multiple times. You end up in the hospital, handcuffed to a bed. You come to, realize what you've done. Now you've got to go to trial. I'm showing a picture of you on the gurney coming out, blood on your face. I'm also got a picture of you at trial. So tell us, you go to trial. Are you remorseful today? Were you remorseful then? Did you apologize to the victims? What happened at the trial, and what happened after the incident?
Yes, sir. Definite remorse. I joined the military because I wanted to serve my country and protect those that couldn't protect themselves. And to do something like this to innocent people, it wasn't in my character. It's not something that I'm proud of. Definitely not proud of. I don't hide it from people in here that ask me, how do I get a life sentence or anything. I'll explain it to them. But I definitely don't go around bragging about it. I'm not proud of it. But anyway, I was laying in a hospital bed at Central Prison, and this is pre-trial, and lawyers coming to speak to me, and they're explaining what happened and what I'm looking at. They told me, they said, they're going to try you for the death penalty, and I was like, what the hell? I don't even remember this. And so we went through 6 months from the time of the crime till my trial started. We started picking the jury February 14th of '94, and during that time, I was grilled over and over and over. I took I had a couple interviews with psychologists, and one of my lawyers, he asked me, he said, "Are you hearing voices? Are you seeing things? Or, And I was like, "No." I said, "I know what you're asking." I said, "And I'm not going to pretend that I'm crazy to avoid responsibility for what I've done." I said, I just don't remember it. I don't think I'm crazy, and I don't think I was crazy. I don't know what happened that night during that blackout, but I'm not going to pretend that I'm something that I'm not to avoid this responsibility. So during the trial, I'm sitting there listening to all of the witnesses get up and describe everything that I've done, my actions, my words, and I'm having to, it's like I'm sitting reading a book, and I'm having to build the imagery in my mind of me doing these things. And at that time, I'd never even been inside, don't even remember ever being inside the restaurant, so I'm trying to put it together in my mind what they're talking about from a diagram that they had in the courtroom. And when we eventually got to the point where we took the jury to the restaurant so they could walk through and see the scene of the layout in the restaurant so they get a better perspective. And when I walked in, I was like, nothing. There was like no memory of
it. Didn't come back, huh?
anything. No.
So you got convicted of what?
I got 4 life sentences run consecutively, and I've got 9 other charges. 8 of them are for assault with a deadly weapon, all the way up to inflicting serious injury with intent to kill, and then 1 charge of firing in an occupied dwelling.
So you're never gonna be released from prison. So right, is that true?
No, sir. My earliest parole eligibility date would be I'd be 106 years old. It's in 2077.
So you've pretty much accepted this is your life, and
Yes,
this is what you have to deal with. And what's that like, knowing you'll never leave prison? I mean, you just have to get used. You have to kind of make it in your mind. This is going to be my life.
For many years, I was very, very angry in here, and it took me a long time to figure out that I was just mad at myself. It wasn't. I took it out on guys in here. I was sitting in here, in a place that I never thought about, and around people that I normally wouldn't have chose to be around, or the type of people that commit, the average crime, I guess. And I was just very, very pissed off, and I didn't care. And guys, I got into a lot of trouble. I spent a lot of years on lockup, and if somebody didn't like me or didn't like what I said or thought, I didn't care, and I would tell them I didn't care, and we'd take it from there. But I came to a point and where I was ready to call it quits in here. I didn't see any reason to keep getting up anymore. I was on lockup at Central Prison, and on a very, very bad cell block on lockup where they had guys that throw feces in your urine and spoiled milk day and night. And the administration were talking about not letting me off lockup ever, and I just didn't see any reason to go on anymore. And there was an inmate in the cell next to me, younger black guy named, I know his prison name, I don't know his real name, but Buddha. Buddha him and I had been talking, and he sent a mental health referral to the social worker there at Central Prison. His name's Larry Huggins. And Larry called me out and got me to talk to him, and I didn't want to talk to Larry because usually it was the guys that were doing the snitching that were going out there to see Larry, or saying they were going out to see Larry when they was just going out to tell the sergeant something. Well, I got out and I started talking to Larry, and between Larry and Buddha, I give those guys credit for me being here today, and I've had an opportunity a couple times since then to thank them both. Larry helped me see that I can still have purpose in my life in here, and I think that was my
Global Tel Link, prepaid call from
Ken French.
We're back out with Ken French.
an inmate at Mountain View Correctional Institution.
Good morning.
Hey, Ken, how are you?
I'm good, man. Did you get your power back on?
So if anybody's watching this video, you're going to see I did a change. I did a costume change. I did a clothing change. I didn't really do a clothing change.
Yeah.
We lost power during the first part of our interview here in North Carolina. We have it back, and we are back on the phone with Ken French. And Ken, maybe you remember where we were, but you were just talking about that day and what happened. And this occurred on August 6, 1993 at the Luigi's restaurant. Do you remember where we were? Do you remember where you were?
Ruined basically my life and those families' lives and my family's life. And I spent a lot of time in here on lockup, about 13 years, almost 14 years on lockup, because of choices that I made and decisions that I made because I didn't see any point to care in here. And I think I was telling you about the inmate that was in a cell next to me, and he realized something was wrong, and I was contemplating suicide, really seriously contemplating it for the first time in my life. And the inmate in the cell next to me, and a social worker there at Central Prison, I credit them with helped me to find that I still have a purpose and I can still have a purpose and a meaning for my life in here, and that's what I was missing. That I didn't feel that I had a purpose, that my life had meaning anymore, and I had to get out of my own head and look at what I could do for others in here and even my family and friends out there, and find some way to deal with what I had done. And I definitely still haven't forgiven myself for the lives that I took and the actions that I did that night, people that I shot.
So basically, you've had a change of mindset to basically make the most of what you have left of your life.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I've got the rest of my life to do in here, and if nothing else, I can try to help some of these guys see that are getting out, the guys that have a chance to get out. Some of these younger guys, I try now to get them to think about what they're doing with their life and what life can be for them without crime and prison, because this isn't where they want to spend their life. This is nobody. I don't think anybody really wants to be in here. Maybe there's a few that are comfortable in here, but this is not the place to live.
So what is prison? What is prison like for you? I mean, is it rough? Is there crazy stuff happening all the time around you? Is it calm? What's it like?
Well, it's been at different camps here in North Carolina, different prisons here in North Carolina. There's almost a separate mentality that goes along with each prison, and you have to adjust to it. And I do a pretty decent job of that, but some of the camps are a lot rougher than others. Scotland Scotland prison is pretty rough. It was when I was there anyhow, and I was in one cell block for a month solid. Somebody was getting beaten or stabbed, or somebody was leaving out of our cell block, going out into the circle area around a control booth and stabbing another inmate or something. I mean, just for 30 days solid, it was just something going on. I mean, one of those days was me getting into a fight also, but it was, and I hate to say it this way, but when things like that are going on, there's a lot more respect. People walk a little more carefully, and you don't have a lot of just dumb stuff going on. There's a lot of guys in here that I don't know what. I guess the mentality on the street has changed, because the guys that are coming in today are the mentality that they're bringing in here is a lot different than the guys from years ago, and it's something that I'm having a really difficult time adjusting to. But here lately, I'm doing better at it. I've made a lot of progress in my own development, and at how I look at things and how I deal with things in here.
What's the food like? What's the sleeping conditions like?
The food is about what you would expect. It's most of the time it's edible, but palatable. No, it's sufficient. We get, they feed us 3 times a day. Normally eggs for breakfast and either cereal or grits or something of that nature with it. And lunch is usually some type of processed meat patty. They love to feed us these breaded chicken patties in here, and they're not cracked out. They're not what they're cracked up to be. Mm-hmm. The guys that work in the kitchen, I've worked in the kitchen. If they take their time and they put a little bit of effort into it, they can turn out a pretty good meal with the ingredients that they have available there in the kitchens. Mm-hmm. But most of the guys, they don't care, and they just want to get it done as fast as possible so they can mm-hmm. so they can get out of the kitchen for that day. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is we end up with something that's not really all that great to eat. The sleeping conditions, I've been in close custody the majority of my time. I'm in medium custody now, but sleeping conditions really haven't changed. And usually medium custody is bunks in a day room, bunk beds in a day room. Mm-hmm. The camp that I'm at right now is 2-man cells. Each cell has 2 bunks and 2 tables and 2 lockers and 1 commode. And it's built for 1 person, but they've got 2 bunks in them.
Is that weird? Is that weird having a cellmate?
Yes. I've got a intercom blasted in my ear. That's everyday occurrence here. Yes, especially after I spent roughly 27 years in a single cell by myself, mm-hmm. and then coming to here and having a roommate in a 7x13 cell. That's quite an adjustment. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, couple last things I want to ask you. What do you say to people that say they don't believe you? That's an easy cop out to say you don't remember anything. It shifts the blame from you to whatever. What do you? I'm sure that people have said that. What do you say to them?
And I understand, and I completely understand, and that's what I tell them first. All right, look, I understand why you would think that. Mm-hmm. All right, but the only way that I can explain it to people is to tell them, all right, look, I was in the military. I had access to a Kevlar helmet. I had access to a bulletproof vest. I had access to, tactical gear. And when I went into that restaurant that night, I was barefoot with a pair of tan Levi Docker shorts, a peach-colored tank top, and a blaze orange hunting vest on. If I had planned to do that, if I'd have been in my right frame of mind, I think I would have geared up a little bit better. I think I would have prepared a little bit better for what I was doing. Mm-hmm. I got shot 5 times and couldn't tell you what it feels like. I have no memory of it. I've never had a dream, a nightmare, a flashback, nothing. And even after sitting through the trial and listening to everybody, all the witnesses describe my actions and everything I said and did, mm-hmm. I still have no memory of the crime. I don't deny my responsibility for what I've done. Mm-hmm. I understand. I'm the one that done it. I'm the one that chose to drink that night. I just don't remember it. I'm not trying to absolve myself of responsibility or blame. I don't have a memory of it.
Last question, are you remorseful for your crimes?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I am. Deeply. There's not a day goes by. I mean, it's impossible for me to, when I wake up, I know where I'm at and I know why I'm here. And every day that I've been in here since I woke up, it started waking up as in prison. I've felt those people didn't deserve what happened to them. They were out enjoying themselves and just having a night out and eating and just living their lives. And here I came, and some of them I took their lives, others I took, I scarred them for life with what I've done, and mentally and physically, maybe emotionally, I don't know. I hope that they found a way to, I hope that all of them have found a way, I pray that all of them have found a way to forgive me, not for my benefit, but so that they're not carrying that hate, that anger around inside of them, and it's not still causing, I'm not still causing them harm in that regard.
Have you talked to any of the victims or their families? Have you talked to any of them?
I've wanted to over the years, but I don't want to cause them any more pain.
None of them have written you, right?
No, sir. No, they haven't.
Do you talk to your family at all still?
Yes, I do. Family and friends. My family and friends. They understand, and they've said time and time again, Kenny, what the hell happened? That's not you. That wasn't you. And I'm like, but they've almost to a person, they've all supported me, emotionally and they mentally, and they've done the best that they can for me to make sure that I don't really go without. And
that's nice.
I appreciate everything that they do for me. I love them, and they've stuck by me through this, and I'm fortunate in that respect. There's a lot of guys in here that, for one reason or another, their family's not with them or their friends are not with them anymore. And for me to have been in here almost 28 years now and still have the people that I do in my life from out there on the street,
you're lucky.
I'm blessed.
Yeah.
I'm blessed, yes.
So last thing, a lot of people reported that you were, the motivation of you doing this, because you were upset that Clinton allowed gays in the military.
All right. They said that I made statements to the effect of, I'll show you Clinton loving faggots, letting gays in my military, and things of that nature. All right. This was right after the time where President Clinton passed the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. And many, many, many of us in the military felt that was, we felt like it gave all of us a black eye, and we're announcing to the free world, and I understand times have changed now, and even then it weren't, maybe some of us were a little more backward thinking, but we felt like we were announcing to the whole world that we're getting let gays in our military. It felt like it weakened our position in the world standing. And
you have 60 seconds remaining.
So you just basically, that's kind of how you felt, and you just felt like when you did it, that's what you were yelling when you were doing it, right?
Yeah, I guess. It just, for whatever reason, I vented about that during that and other things during the commission of the crime, right?
Before we run out of time, Ken, do you welcome mail? Are people okay to write you?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Go ahead and rattle off your address and your number and all that. How do they write you?
All right.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Go ahead.
Kenneth French, and my Opus number is 01-36988. That has to go after my last name. Then 545 Amity Park Road, Amity Park Road, Spruce Pine, North Carolina, 28777.
And what's the prison called? I think it's Mountain View Prison. You could look it up. So if y'all want to write Ken French, he would probably welcome your mail. Former military member, mass murderer, claims he doesn't remember anything. Interesting case. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you would do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. And I hope you enjoy that. There's a lot more coming. Thanks so much.